First, I need to apologize. I kind of stalled out on this project. It wasn't for lack of trying. I just had different priorities that took me away from this particular project. So I took some pictures. I should have shown how I did this, but it's just a 3D print. Nothing really extravagant about it. Let's go ahead and remove this. It's just a stand that is tied to the bottom acrylic plate with these thumb screws. I also took these thumb screws and I made them, designed them and made them on the 3D printer as well. I just put the 1/4 20 or thread on there, but I had to run it through and clean up the tap anyway, or with a die to clean it up. But they screw it on and they hold that bottom plate, or the bottom stand to the bottom plate. Nothing special, but the whole purpose of that stand is so that the recirculating pump can fit up inside there and stand up like so. I got the cord sort of in my way, so I can't really play with it and get it in place. But I have all the fittings, and I was going to proceed through putting everything on, putting some Teflon tape on everything and tying it all together. The first thing that I need to do is, with this pump, I need to have a way to inject the ozone into the reactor. And again, I'm going to take a cue from a Vast Marine's design, and I'm going to drill a hole and tap it with a pipe thread to accept this Kynar fitting. And that's all it is. It's going to go right inside there, and 1/16 or 1/8 inch tube is going to attach to that, and that's going to go to my ozone reactor, and it's just going to pump ozone into here as it recirculates through the reactor itself. Not much to it. These things are threaded, they're cast, or molded, and I have to make sure that I have this on here tight. This piece here, which is just, you find this at Home Depot, it's a 2-inch or 1-inch plumbing fitting for your sprinkler systems and stuff like that, irrigation or whatnot. So I have to make sure it's on there tight so that I can index or actually find a spot to drill a hole so that this tube will come out like so. I don't want it over here. I don't want it over here. I want it to basically line up right there so that on the back side of this, the airline can come right into it. So without further ado, let me get the tool. I'm going to center punch this, and I'm going to drill it and tap it. I'm going to remove this guy. One thing to note is that these are 1/4 inch, I believe, 1/4 inch pipe thread, and this is not a pipe thread fitting, but the threads actually line up and it's got the right pitch. So I'm going to gob on the Teflon tape so that I get a really good seal. So I got to lock that down and has to point that or this direction here, but I can get about another 1/2 inch turn, and that's where it bottoms out. So I need to pack on the Teflon tape so that that runs parallel with the inlet. But anyway, let's take that off. I'm not going to do any measuring, or it's not a whole lot to this procedure. I just want to eyeball center in between here, and then use this spring-loaded punch that all it does is puts in a indentation so that my drill bit will line up. And that's it. I mean, if it's off, it's off now. I've basically made the mark. So now all I got to do is come in with my drill bit here, and it's going to line up, and I'll just drill right through it. So let's get that set up. Okay, I have it all set up in my vise and set up on my drill press. I lined up the hole, and all I got to do now is just drill right through the pipe. So here we go. So now got it drilled. I'll go ahead and remove it, and I'll just run a tap through it. The 1/8, no, it's a, I might have said 1/8 earlier, but this is for the pipe thread. It's 1/16 NPT, 1/16/27, I believe. Now we'll take a look just to be sure, but it's going to line up, and we'll tap it and make sure that we get the Kynar fitting on there. And here it is, 1/16/27 national pipe thread. So I'll get that set up and I will run it through. Now understand that a pipe thread expands, or it's tapered, so it's shorter on the tip and then it expands as you start to cut threads. And the whole purpose of that is for the pipe to tighten as you tighten it down. So when I cut my threads, I don't want to cut all the way through. I want to make sure that I just get enough so that it's snug. And something else that's somewhat critical is that when I start to cut my threads, I got to make sure that I'm perpendicular to the plumbing so that it is on there, so that when the fitting is on, the fitting doesn't sit upwards. This is exaggerated, of course, or downwards or off to the side, what have you. You want it to be in there just perpendicular to the plumb or the pipe itself. So normally you would do this with some maybe alignment or tools, but I'm just going to do this by hand, just by holding it and taking a look at it as I cut through. So make sure that I'm square there, and if you can already tell that I'm not necessarily square here, so I'll straighten that out as I start to cut through. I'll make sure that I get it all the way around. Okay, that's going to have to do. So I'll push it through. Like I said, I'm going to look through here. I don't want to get too much of that thread in. So now that I've gone a little bit inside, about 1/4 of an inch in, I am going to test fit my Kynar fitting to make sure that it sits snugly in there. Seems like I'm barely getting the thread to catch, which is a good thing, so I can keep cutting a little bit further in to make sure that I can get a good bite. So I'm barely touching it, so I'm going to go ahead and clean that off some. Get the plastic off of there, tighten it back down. I don't want to cross it, so I want to start it easily and let it kind of go in there on its own. Now I'm looking down in there. That's not necessarily straight, but straight as I can get it without using the proper alignment. So I went about halfway inside there, if you can see that. And let's see if that's better. So I'll pull it back out. And run it through again. Oh, here we go. So I'm getting some resistance about three threads in. It's actually flush on the inside, which is really good. So now I can put some Teflon on this and I can run it all the way down and not have to worry about that leaking. So it'll be a nice tight fit, and I'll go ahead and I'll get this Teflon taped around this and then Teflon tape around this, and I'll get it onto the motor. Oh, one thing I do want to mention, this nut here, I guess you would want to call it, I got to cut these threads off, or these little tabs. They're going to get in the way of when I go to tighten this down. They're going to get in the way of being able to tighten it. It's going to get stuck in here and I'm not going to be able to tighten it all the way down. So I'm just going to cut these tabs off real quick. I was able to cut it off. The bandsaw made short work of it. Not flush, not necessarily needed, just enough so that I can clear as I screw this down. So let's go ahead and I'll thread all that and get it all installed, and we'll go from there. And now it's all together, and as you can see, straight on, it is pretty good. So now all I got to do is get this tapped, or not tapped, but some pipe thread on that, or some Teflon tape on that, and I'm gonna start putting all the fittings on the bottom side of the reactor. All right, as you can see, I got everything on, and everything's Tefloned on. This here, I have to put it on like this, so I have to put that nut on in place. I got my let me get the camera straight. My Kynar fitting here is for the ozone. This one will be, this goes to the carbon reactor. This one comes from the tank. I may have those backwards. It's been a while. I have to look again. But one thing I do want to point out is the C-shaped pump comes with this propeller, and it needs to be replaced with this needle wheel. Now this one supposedly is ozone friendly or ozone resistant, and it will last forever. And it's a needle wheel, so it's going to chop up the ozone as it makes its way and mixes with the water. Here it is. All you have to do is slip it in this guy, and the magnet will pull it down. Just give it a little bit of a push. The biggest difference here is that it has a ceramic center or shaft, where this one is a stainless steel shaft. So you got to be careful not to put too much pressure on it, because it will crack and you're out 20 bucks. So now that I got that in there, I just have to connect it all. And there you have it. One complete reactor. The only thing left to do is the carbon chamber. But that's it. Stay tuned for the next chapter.